Fellow Barbadians, I greet you. In the world increasingly dominated by the superpowers and by big nations, there is a tendency for it to be assumed by the unthinking that the personalities of political significance are to be found only amongst the ranks of the mighty. Those are the words of the right excellent Sir Wharton Barrow. What is also evident in this world today is the fact that the interaction between the democratic political process, the powers of mass media, and the influence of the opinion polls has continuously produced a politician whose mediocrity reflects the enduring search for enthusiastic representation and collective development for every Barbadian. My fellow Barbadians, I greet you in the spirit of growth, development, and prosperity. This 2023 presents to us the new beginning of a calendar year for all Barbadians and the world citizens all over. It also represents new opportunities, new uncertainties, and tremendous potential to better our circumstance and take advantage of the ability to develop as a people, as wealth creators, and more importantly, as Barbadians. I also bring to you greetings as a member of the National Democratic Progress, a coming together of average Barbadians seeking to motivate, educate, and enhance the lives of fellow Barbadians. We are a political grouping that is prepared to play the critical part of bringing to you tremendous opportunities to better our state of affairs. Our nation has always produced good prime ministers that has moved us a step further or closer to development. And while we appreciate the distance thus far traveled, the Barbadian people have reached the destination where all educational, political doctrine, and governance must be liberated from diplomatic parables and from parliamentary jargon. Barbadians, we have reached that port of call where we will accept that tourism and hospitality are critical to the country's economic development, but not at the expense of the Barbadian through taxation and hidden taxation. While these sectors are receiving concessions and while subsidies are in abundance, the taxes showered on Barbadians are not as friendly as our taxpayers' money are to the hospitality sector. Furthermore, it can be assumed that the average Barbadian can be helped to understand why taxation is of critical importance to the development of the country's purse. What they might find difficulty understanding is why representation of the people is of minimum concern to the development of the Barbadian people. Taxation and representation must go hand in hand. The government's purse is to ensure that the basic social, education, infrastructural, and healthcare needs are in place for Barbadians to be satisfied. While the development of the Barbadian is to ensure that the basic stimuli of the Barbadian purse is all set in motion. They go hand in hand. Sadly, that has not been the case for the last 15 to 20 years in this country. We have placed tremendous amount of distinction and significance in the three T's: transactions, taxation, and tourism, none of which have been properly explained to the Barbadian public. Furthermore, because of the abundance of diplomatic parables and the surplus of parliamentary jargon, Barbadians do not quite understand the link between the three T's. What is clear and easily understood by Barbadians is that successive governments seem to be constantly increasing taxes on Barbadians, hoping that the heavily subsidized tourism sector can make enough money to cover our transactions. They then turn around and use these ill-conceived transactions to justify an increase in taxation from the average Barbadian, so that more concessions can then be awarded to the tourism sector, again in hopes of making money to fulfill our responsibilities to the transactions they have entered into. In only 3 points, I will seek to explain what I've just said to you in Beijing terms, so you can understand and I can understand what we are both saying to each other. 1. We are being taxed more because of transactions entered into to reduce the national debt that the government embarked on with the IMF. This is a situation where we get money from the IMF to pay our debts and to sustain the country. But then we must pay the money back. Yes, with lower interest, but for the long term. Thus almost doubling our premium and engaging in yet another debt-based transaction. 2. We are being taxed more because of the amount of borrowing transactions that government engage in with international organizations. And again, yes, we must pay back with interest. This is yet another debt-based transaction that will affect our children's children's way of living in a not too distant future. 3. We are being taxed more because of the international trade and investment transactions the government entered into with developed countries. These two come with a payback clause that may include some of our basic commodities, such as transportation, electricity, and natural gas, being owned and or operated by foreign investors. It may also mean that our physical resources, and in some cases our rights and our privileges, stand at the probability of being dictated by foreign transactions. Barbadians, once those taxes are collected from the average Barbadian, a percentage is then converted to concessions, which are again awarded to the tourism sector as low or almost no importation tax on the goods they bring in. And in some cases, subsidies are awarded in addition to the year-round tax-free shopping that they already enjoy. Then the cycle of transaction, taxation, and tourism starts again. Barbadian, in this first month of 2023, I'm inviting and encouraging you to embrace the NDP's cleansing operation title, No Taxation Without Representation. These are not words uncommon to your ears, for we have heard them once before from our first Prime Minister and Father of Independence. We're not saying that you should not pay taxes. We are asking you to demand that the persons you elect to represent you in the House of Assembly are doing as you ask them to do. They are representing you and nothing more or nothing less. We all have to pay some form of taxes, and we understand that. But they cannot be at the expense of the Barbadian because of unnecessary transactions and one-based tourism sector. We cannot have all our eggs in one basket. I will close with these words. Having one system of parliamentary democracy and republicanism, we are bound together by the common respect of law and for law. And while still being in an uncertain and unstable state of economic development, together we can now aspire under the common pledge to develop each other. Using Barbadian resources, using the talents of Barbadians, and allowing Barbadians to be creative, we must weld ourselves together as one people, one nation, in which each citizen and resident will have their own self-respect, a productive way of living, and be able to produce by using the tools granted to them, that they will take advantage of the knowledge needed to assist each other in uplifting the standard of living for all people of Barbados. My fellow Barbadians, my name is Paul A. Forte, and on behalf of my family and the national democratic progress, we wish you all a happy new year and a holistic developmental 2023.